What is up, F and true followers and the members of the YWC? JC Styles here with the F and brand of wrestling and entertainment here on YouTube.com with the Monday Night Raw review for February 27, 2012. I want to apologize in advance if this video is a little bit longer than normal, that I took down a lot of notes. This was a phenomenal Monday Night Raw. I enjoyed it from beginning to end, so let's get right into it, shall we? We saw the opening of the night. We saw the video package showing Cena talk about Dwayne Johnson, a.k.a. The Rock, from last Monday night. We also start off the show. We see a video package of The Rock to address John Cena tonight later on. We get ready to see champion versus champion, CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan. When the match is interrupted, before the match started, we see Jericho come out not too long after CM Punk hits the ring. Jericho comes out and speaks about being the best in the world at what he does and talks about how he liked Punk. The two went back and forth. We saw the two exchange words. Then we hear Jericho talk about how he liked Punk, how he thought Punk was a fantastic entertainer, wrestler, until he started using the best in the world catchphrase, vignette, whatever Jericho called it. Jericho talks about his accomplishments over the last 22 years in the business, how he is the undisputed best in the world, how he faced many legends like The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin at Vengeance 2001 to become the first ever undisputed champion. Chris says he lives, breathes, eats being best in the world at what he does, and he said he came back to take his catchphrase back and to take the WWE Championship away from Punk. Punk turned around and basically said, if that's all you wanted, you could have just asked. He says, so let's do it. Best in the world versus the best in the world. Let's do it, WrestleMania 28. He says the best. Punk referred to himself as the best wrestler in the world. Jericho calls himself the best in the world at what he does. So it was not confirmed, but they do have it set up that we will possibly see best in the world versus best in the world for the WWE Championship, CM Punk versus Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 28. We then see the promo interrupted by Daniel Bryan as we get ready to see Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk. We see Daniel Bryan come out with John Laurinaitis and David Otunga. We also see Teddy Long come out, and the both of them sit ringside on commentary. We see a brawl break out when Laurinaitis and David Otunga get involved in the match. We see Santino hit the Cobra, which knocked David Otunga off the apron. And during this brawl, we saw Daniel Bryan trying to weasel out. We see Sheamus run up behind him, throw him back into the ring. We see Laurinaitis climb into the ring to call for the bell to end the match. The bell rang. Another no contest match. We see the two basically push each other around. The coats came off, and then at the top of the entryway, we see CM Punk, basically doing his last little hurrah towards the crowd for the night. We see Chris Jericho jump Punk from behind and put him into the Walls of Jericho. Now, the Walls of Jericho is a little bit different from what Jericho used to do back in WCW, which was the Lion Tamer. The Lion Tamers was the Walls of Jericho when he would go to one knee, and that's what happened. We then come back from commercial break, and Josh Matthews is outside of the trainer's room and says after the attack, Punk is not hurt, just furious. He was to give us more information later on, which we never heard back from. We see a video package of WrestleMania 27, Triple H versus Undertaker. Also, I'm going to put the link down below because right before this promo, there was a video package. There was an interview on WWE.com with Shawn Michaels, and it was good. I mean, this was the first time I ever seen Shawn Michaels lose his cool like this in a long time, and it was a fire promo, interview per se. So check that out. It's WWE.com. You don't need the link, just check out WWE.com. Then we see Kelly pick up the win over Nikki Bella. We also see John Cena pick up the win over The Miz. Prior to the match starting, The Miz speaks on working hard the last 2 years and the travels and how his name is yet to be chosen for WrestleMania 28 this year. How Cena is picked to be the face of the company and how he is WrestleMania worthy and he will do it by beating Cena, who he also beat last year at WrestleMania 27. With that being said, like I said, John Cena picked up the win over The Miz. After the match, we see John Cena celebrating in the ring. They show The Rock backstage on the Titantron, basically hopping in place, getting pumped up. He looks at the camera and basically goes like this, and then he goes like that, and it cuts to black. Then we see for the first time in a real long time a triple threat tag team championship match. So it was traditional triple threat rules, 3 men in the ring, the 3 other men in the match would stand outside and they would be entered in when tagged in by their partner. It was a fantastic match. It was very good, went back and forth. There was a segment where Jack Swagger had the ankle lock on, I believe it was Primo, and then we saw Kofi come in and hit the Trouble in Paradise, and then was followed up by the back cracker or the backstabber by Primo. We see the two pick up the win and successfully retain the tag team championships over R-Truth, Kofi Kingston, Jack Swagger, and Dolph Ziggler. Then we see Kane come out and choke slam R-Truth, Ziggler, and Epico, and I basically said this to a bunch of my buddies online. It's funny to build up a monster when he's ripping through a bunch of mid-carders. And that's basically what he did. He basically ripped through a bunch of mid-card contenders. Backstage segment with Teddy Long and John Laurinaitis backstage. The two in the back are enraged with each other, like they want to just knock each other's lights out. We see both of them basically say, "Oh, there's a rumor that you won't be running Raw next week. There's a rumor that you won't be running SmackDown next week," and that's the end of the promo. And we come out and we hear Eve talk about how what happened last week, how we can't blame her because she's such a beautiful woman, and how men crumble at her feet, etc. To be honest, Eve, I just don't know what it is. I just don't find her all that attractive. I mean, there's people out there that might find her very attractive. Typically, myself, I am not. But before I get into another story on that, she basically blew a kiss at all the fans, and the fans were chanting "Hoski," and then that was to end the night. The end of promo, I'm sorry. Then we see Kelly backstage talking to Eve about why are you doing this? You were such a nice person, but as of late you changed. And we see Eve just laugh and walk off. Then we see Sheamus Sheamus in the Big Show to take on Cody Rhodes and Mark Henry before the commercial break. After Sheamus and Big Show hit the ring, we see Cody and Mark Henry come out, and Cody Rhodes plays another video package of Big Show's embarrassing WrestleMania moment from WrestleMania 24 when he got knocked out by Floyd Money Mayweather. We also see a world premiere of the WWE Hall of Fame 2012 Hall of Fame inductee Edge in his first ever major film role. We all remember that Edge and Christian had a brief little stint in Highlander Endgame back in the early 2000s. This is going to be Edge's from beginning to end full motion picture. It is called Bending the Rules. It is a WWE Films studio production. We see the Big Show and Big Show and Sheamus pick up the win after just completely destroying Mark Henry. Cody kept trying to get into the ring, and Big Show just kind of cut him off. He tagged in, Mark Henry and walked off. We saw Big Show hit that big spear on Mark Henry, and then just as Mark Henry started to get up and Big Show was yelling at Cody, Sheamus was like, "Hey man, we got a match, come on." He wound up tagging himself in, hit the ropes, bam, bro kick. Big Show chased after Cody Rhodes. The winners of the match, Big Show and Mark Henry. We see that we are hearing an announcement that HBK will return next week on Monday Night Raw to address the match at WrestleMania 28, Triple H versus The Undertaker. We also see another video package from last week's Monday Night Raw concerning Cena. Come back from commercial break. If you smell what The Rock is cooking, The Rock comes walking out. Rock talks about how he is not on Raw every week. He talks about how he was for years, how he was at every house show, at every Monday Night Raw, on every SmackDown, and how he gave bled sweat to the company. He talked about how he was created in the WWE, created and born into the WWE. The Rock said he was back last year and that he was never going anywhere. It didn't mean he meant it to be that he wasn't leaving because he wasn't gonna not stop. He was gonna stop entertaining us. He didn't mean it to sound like he was gonna be at every Raw and at every live event. He didn't mean that. John Cena, he pointed specifically at John Cena, saying that John Cena took it literally. We see The Rock talk about his thoughts about how John Cena was phony. He talked about so many different things. John Cena's missing balls, John Cena lady parts, chanting Fruity Pebbles, and lo and behold, John Cena was on a box of Fruity Pebbles a couple of months later after the whole Fruity Pebble thing. Then we see John Cena come out. Oh, I'm sorry. The Rock turned around and says that Cena was running The Rock down, and how if he really wanted to talk to Rock, he had his cell phone number, he could have called, and it went on and on and on. And he says, "I seen you backstage, I see you in the ring, I see you back at the catering table getting some food." And he goes, "I would rather slap you with a piece of Kung Pao chicken, you Kung Pao bitch." Then he went on to talk about that trending worldwide, Cena's missing balls trending worldwide, boots to ashes, 365 days a year, 24/7. He talked about so much. Then we see Cena come out and he talks about how he doesn't need to write anything down on his wrists. And it was just a really interesting, promo. Basically, this really hyped up The Rock and Cena at WrestleMania 28. John Cena kind of says what he has to say and walks off. And The Rock says, "Well, if you're going to listen to me, you're going to listen to me." He goes, "Whether it's Dwayne, The Rock, Dwayne, whatever, the trailblazing, eyebrow raising, people's champion, the Brahma Bull, whatever nickname you want to throw in there," he goes, "the same thing is going to be me whooping your candy ass. If you smell what The Rock is cooking, The Rock's music hits, Raw goes off the air." Now, guys, this was a very interesting Raw. It was very epic in my mind. I know a lot of people are probably going to say otherwise. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next week on Monday Night Raw with Shawn Michaels. And this was actually the first time we didn't see Triple H and The Undertaker on Raw. I know that they were on Raw the last couple of weeks, so it was really interesting. So, guys, like always, please check out the other channels that make up the Efren brand of wrestling and entertainment. The Efren True Click, Efren True Entertainment, Brian's Fight Nation Wrestling, FightNationWrestling.com. Also, please check out Most Extreme Wrestling, We Are Pro Wrestling, XBA 325, and Champagne Shane, who is an up-and-comer on YouTube. Guys, thanks for watching. Like I said, I'm sorry that this video ran a little bit later than usual. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.